You're being controlled by a man who looks good and he sounds reasonable, and I bet he genuinely believes that he's helping you. And that's why you have not been able to name what's happening. This is about benevolent abuse, when care and concern and good intentions really covertly become the way that control gets delivered, and it works because you were taught to see this kind of man as safe. He didn't come across as scary when you met him. These guys never do. Nothing in your body was lighting up. You're not bracing for impact. Being around him probably actually felt easier, right? Comfortable. Like you could drop your shoulders just a little bit. He seemed calm and confident, and he seemed like a guy who had everything figured out, especially if you're used to chaos or the usual, like emotional whiplash of being with somebody who's just toxic or always being the one holding everything together. And I know that early sense of relief really matters because that's where this starts. And even now, listening to this, I bet part of you hesitates because if this is abuse, then that thing that you felt safe in is also the thing that slowly ripped the frigging ground out from underneath you. You're in a moment that you've probably lived through however many times. You're talking about a choice you've already made, a plan, a boundary, just something that matters to you. And he doesn't get angry. He doesn't shut you down. He asks a question, just raises a concern, right? He just wants to understand something. He just explains why he sees it differently, walks you through the risks, says he just wants you to think it through. So when the conversation is over, you're still doing the thing you planned to do technically, but maybe you feel a little more unsure. Something shifted in that conversation. And because nothing blew up, right? It's not like you argued. You just kind of brush it off. And you tell yourself that you're overthinking. But I bet you this moment keeps happening and you keep calling it nothing. I'm Lisa Sonni, and I recognize this pattern because I sit with women in coaching sessions where they name this to me all the time, right? We talk about abuse like it's always obvious. Even when we talk about covert abuse, it still can seem a little bit obvious. This is about the women who feel abused and can't name it at all. You have no idea, right? You just sort of feel unsettled and you can't really put words to it. Women who know that something is off, but every single moment has some explanation, and the comments that he makes always sound reasonable. He'll push your boundaries, but only in the name of concern. You keep saying things like he's not mean, right? It's not that bad. You don't even know why you're so upset. This is the trap right here. There's no clear language for what you're living because nothing is obvious. I would say that plausibly everything's fine, right? So instead of questioning what's happening to you, you start questioning yourself. But here's how this actually works. Benevolent abuse frames control as care. And this isn't separate from the patriarchy. This is one of the ways that the patriarchy really survives. We talk a lot right now about benevolent patriarchy, and I've seen some incredible content about it, even from YV Edit, who's been recently on my podcast. Now, it's the idea that men don't have to be cruel to hold power, right? They just have to be good, calm, protective, reasonable. This is what it looks like inside a normal relationship, right? It shows up normal, everyday language. He worries about your safety, so maybe you should reconsider being out so late with your friends. He questions your decisions, and he'll say something like, I'm just not sure that it's the smartest move right now. He might offer advice, but he's not going to offer you rules. Rules would be too obvious, right? Listen, if it were me, I would handle it differently. And then you start to question it because he doesn't stop you outright. He just explains why he wouldn't do it that way. So you start to question yourself. He doesn't isolate you. He can't just say, you can't go out with your friends, but he will express concern about certain people. And because the tone is calm and the words literally sound loving, the impact is not considered. You've heard these things before, right? I'm only saying this because I care about you. Do what you think is best. Just don't say I didn't warn you. It can kind of slip into something a little bit deeper here, right? Well, I'd hate for you to regret this later. I could go on. There's so many examples. In fact, drop them in the comments. But slowly, the center of authority shifts to him. You stop being the final word on your own life, and everything you think of or decide gets filtered through his perspective. He doesn't need to declare himself the authority. He doesn't even have to. He just frames it consistently like he already is. These types are not often the ones who refer to themselves as the leader or alpha. Some do, right? Some do, but not always. It just happens. He sounds thoughtful and grounded, or like if there's a disagreement, it doesn't get treated as two equal viewpoints. He just explains why your reaction makes sense given your past, right? You're stressed, your trauma, you're sensitive. So it makes sense that you would act this way, babe. Really, he's putting you down, right? See how it almost sounds like he cares or he understands you in a better than you know yourself kind of way, but he doesn't. He interprets your feelings back to you in a way that kind of covertly lowers your own credibility and with yourself, I mean, credibility with yourself. And because women are taught from every friggin' angle to trust male logic over their own perception, it honestly feels like it makes sense. And this is why he feels so convincing. His logic always sounds kind of sensible, convincing even, because he's only reasoning from what benefits him. What's his alleged logic costing you, right? He doesn't care. That's not even part of the calculation. So you keep thinking that if you say it differently or you stay calmer or with different words or you just comply, things are going to finally click. But I'm sorry to tell you, it already has. Your experience is actually just irrelevant in all honesty. So every conversation ends with you doing more adjusting and he sits at the top and that imbalance keeps repeating because it works. Well, for him, it works. It's that simple. We make this so complicated. It is honestly not that complicated. Listen, you start noticing this in conversations. He talks longer, maybe talks at you, redirects the point you were making, reframes it into something else. You try to jump in, no, right? You stop. You get dizzy from these conversations. You always leave feeling a little bit, corrected, like never quite heard, maybe even a little fuzzy about what you were even trying to say. You realize that you changed your opinion, but you can't quite place why. It's not even an argument. Nothing that you could actually point to and be like, he made me. It's just something moved and it doesn't really feel neutral. Pay attention to what happens around disagreement with a guy like this, because this is actually where intention shows up. And intention is really hard to see. I know, right? But listen, when you agree, he kind of relaxes. He's a little bit warmer or more present with you. But if you push back, he might be like a degree colder, a little bit distant, but not overtly angry. This guy, this sort of benevolent abuser, he probably wouldn't be like overtly angry, at least not that often if he is at all. There's usually not like an explosion. It's just a shift in your body and you feel it. You feel it so quickly. Over time, you kind of adjust and you do it before the shift even happens. And really, this is how conditioning works. This is conditioning in effect. His calm plays such a big role here. I've made videos on how he uses calm as a weapon. You've got to check them out. It is truly one of the best covert abuser tools ever, okay? The absence of rage, it can feel really neutral or even safe, or at least safer, but it's really not because it works in his favor. So when he stays calm and you're upset, right? That flip happens. His composure becomes proof that he's right. Your reaction, your distress, your feelings, that's the issue. It's always your reaction that's the issue, isn't it? Always. They're so predictable. You end up managing your tone and your reactions and the way that you say things, but his position, it stays so perfectly untouched. Calm does not make him safer, but it does absolutely make a guy like this harder to challenge. He also keeps this going by wrapping it in morality, right? It's such a piss off, but again, hard to challenge. He sees himself as fair and reasonable, mature. You don't want to be dramatic, right? We never want to be one of those women. That's a built-in defense mechanism of the patriarchy, right? You get pitted against other women. You don't want to be unfair. So you become soft and you compromise and you explain more than you should. You justify yourself. He doesn't even have to push. He gets compliant without force. But that's the point. That would be too obvious. Tell me in the comments, actually, if you recognize this example. Let's say you're about to make a decision about money, parenting, work, your time, something relatively important, whatever, some decision. You already know what you want to do. So before you even do anything, you check in with him because you want to avoid that little hint of disappointment that shows up when you don't check in with him. And he listens and he asks questions because he's a good guy, but he raises concerns. And there it is again, the internal shift. Your confidence flips to hesitation. You tell yourself you're being thoughtful or cautious and you're thinking, you're considering him, you're being a good partner. But that pause, it doesn't just come from him. You were actually taught this, that a good woman checks in, that letting a man lead is what grown-ups do, right? Doesn't register to you as control because it feels normal. And here's another piece, and like this one, it keeps women stuck for years. Nothing ever fully resolves, right? There's no actual apology, not like a real repair. There's no break. You leave conversations feeling like you were close, so close, like something almost landed with him. Like if you explained it one more time, maybe it would make sense. But sit in this unresolvedness. Sit in this. That's what keeps you thinking and replaying and hoping. But it's strategy, right? It keeps you engaged and he never has to change. And all of this, it's fed by the patriarchy in really specific ways. So let's circle back to that because we talked about the patriarchy and it is very connected to this. Women are taught that male authority is safe, that a man who knows best is a protector, right? Please watch my video actually called Men Are Not Protectors. It's such a good video. It makes some really great points and explains why I'm saying this. Men are not protectors. They're not providers either, but let's stick to the point here. We're told that letting a man lead is mature, and frankly, we're told it's natural. So when a man steps in confidently and he takes the wheel, it feels like relief because most men are absolutely not these things. Women, we overfunction a lot, right? A lot. And finally, you have a man who's a true leader. You don't even see it properly, right? It's not risk, is it? The same behaviors that literally strip your authority are the ones that you were trained to read as love. Oh, difficult, right? Women are also taught to prioritize peace over autonomy. I could not count the number of male podcasters with mics that go on about wanting a woman to be their peace. Ugh. You are rewarded for being agreeable, understanding, and reasonable. So when he's calm, you're the one pushing back. The pressure turns towards you. You don't even ask why he gets the final say. You ask yourself why you're making things hard. Women end up constantly auditing themselves, considering what they did to get him to act like this when he's just like this, right? You worry that you're being unfair, but he never worries that he has too much power in the relationship. And no, this is not actually about him just being logical or this just being his personality. Can we please stop giving men the benefit of the doubt? Like, let's just collectively agree to stop giving men the just general benefit of the doubt. Look at the pattern. When you assert yourself, he's cold. When you pull back, he's warm. When you adapt to him, everybody relaxes a little bit. But the truth is, when you comply, things feel easier. Like, admit it, it feels easier. That's feedback-based adjustment. That's what that is. And over time, you don't even realize that this costs you so much. Decisions are harder and you get smaller and more of a follower. This doesn't have to be about like masculine leaders and submissive women. It's ridiculous. That's not what this is about. This whole thing is tricky. You wait for approval or straight up permission that you used to give yourself. And you're not really afraid of him, right? You're afraid of being wrong or of being unfair or of being the problem again. And that fear keeps you really compliant because the system rewards it. You think that if you can communicate better, stay calm or explain yourself or heal, that the balance is going to come back. You used to be able to make decisions for yourself, especially when you first met. Maybe he even loved the fact that you were an independent woman and ambitious and all this. But do you see how like suddenly he doesn't feel that way anymore? Suddenly he just needs to teach you something. And we do this thing where it's like, let him teach me, and listen to him. And we feel feminine, but this is all being pitched to us by the patriarchy. Nothing you're going to do is going to bring this balance back. It won't. Nope. The behavior keeps going because it works. He gets comfort and authority and labor, and he never has to negotiate as an equal to you. So when his control is threatened, he's going to throw distance between you. That makes sense. This is the mechanism. This is what's happening. That's why you can't name it, but you're nodding at me right now. Hit subscribe. This is the perfect moment because once you see this pattern, you're going to see it everywhere. And I keep breaking down what men do to control you where you may not notice. Now, there's one more moment that I want to cover that you really need to clock here. You bring up something that matters to you, a feeling, concern, need, whatever. He listens, he nods at you, but he reframes it into something about your past, your stress, your sensitivity, whatever. The focus is off his behavior and onto your internal state, your feeling. So you leave feeling like the issue was addressed, but nothing actually changed, right? That unresolvedness keeps you talking and explaining and hoping. And because the world vouches for him and men like him, the doubt sticks with you. Other people are going to see a guy like this as kind and caring and helpful. He really loves you. He's just taking care of you. But when something feels wrong, you're going to assume that it's on you. But really, this is just how the abuse stays protected because it doesn't disrupt anybody else, only you. The realization you're actually moving toward is very simple and also brutal. And I'm sorry. This doesn't continue because he doesn't understand. It continues because it benefits him. Being with you, abusing you, it benefits him. It keeps his position by staying calm while you do all the work of adjusting. So if you're seeing things clearly now, comment, tell me your experience. Subscribe because I'm going to keep explaining and exposing these men and their tactics. And if you'd like to become a client, you can work with me privately in sessions, inside my group coaching programs, or inside She Rises Collective, my online community. I'll see you in the next video.